Today, we're digging into the incredible first-hand account of a career U.S. Army sergeant named Clifford Stone. And what a story it is. He claims his own command put him through what he calls a living hell, and all for one reason. He started asking questions about UFOs.
And that quote right there, it tells you everything you need to know. This isn't just a story about weird lights in the sky. Nope. This is about what happens when one soldier dares to question the official story, and the system decides to push back. Hard.
So who was Sergeant First Class Clifford Stone? Well, he was a guy who was all in on his military career, a dedicated soldier. But he also had this deep personal interest in UFOs ever since he was a kid. His service record was squeaky clean until, that is, he got a very strange and unexpected assignment that sent him to Roswell, New Mexico.
Now, the thing that kicked all this off wasn't Roswell itself, but a single document he remembered seeing called the Snowbird Document. He says this one page laid out U.S. contact with alien groups and even a landing at an Air Force base. I mean, that is a huge claim, and it's the one that set this entire crazy ordeal in motion.
This brings us to the moment it all began. Now, Stone didn't leak anything. He didn't go to the press with wild accusations. He did something much, much simpler, something he figured was his right. He just asked a question.
Look, his request could not have been more straightforward. He wasn't asking for top-secret files. He just wanted a simple yes or no on this document he'd seen. Is it real or is it fake? That's it. You'd think that'd be an easy enough question to answer.
Well, the response he got was anything but simple. They wouldn't confirm it, sure, but they also wouldn't deny it. Instead, the National Security Agency, the NSA, gets involved and calls his senator's office, telling them his questions were about national security policy. So when he offered to rewrite his letter to take out the sensitive parts, they told him they couldn't tell him which parts were sensitive because telling him would reveal the policy itself.
And this is where the story gets pretty ugly. After that bizarre runaround from the government, the real pressure campaign started. And it wasn't coming from the NSA. It was coming from his own immediate command. And just look at how fast everything went downhill. A local paper runs a story about his UFO interest, a story he never even authorized, and his command just cracks down. In a matter of a few months, he gets hit with a direct order to shut up, and then he's told to go get his head checked.
This lawful order was a gag order, plain and simple. First, no talking to the media without permission. Okay. Then, no contacting any other UFO researchers without approval. And then, get this, no writing to Congress or the White House. He believed these were his basic rights as a citizen, even as a soldier.
And the pressure wasn't just some memo from on high, it was personal. His own colonel cornered him, demanding that he spill the beans on all of his private research. When Stone stood his ground and refused, things got even worse. So what's the next play in their book? If you can't silence him, discredit him. He was ordered to Fort Bliss for a full psychological evaluation. The message was crystal clear. Anyone who's seriously interested in this topic must be mentally unstable. But here's the thing. The whole plan just blew up in their faces. After all the tests, the psychologist came back with his official finding. According to Stone, the doctor basically said, "Look, you have some eccentric ideals, but you are not crazy." In fact, he didn't just say he wasn't crazy, he marked Stone's mentality down as bright, the highest rating you could possibly get. So plan A, call him crazy, failed miserably. Time for plan B, total isolation. They took away all of his duties, every last one, and stuck him in a little room in the basement, just a desk, a phone, and a chair. As he put it, his only job was to smoke cigars, drink coffee, and sweep floors. But you gotta understand, Sergeant Stone was not the type to just roll over and take it. He decided to fight back. And eventually, his case got the attention of a higher authority, which kicked off a full-blown investigation that was about to turn this entire situation completely on its head. And when the results of that investigation came in, wow, it was an absolute bombshell for his command. The official report said his removal from duty was not justified. It called the whole thing a failed attempt to pressure him to retire early. It found his superiors showed clear intolerance and bias. And the worst part? The paperwork they used against him, they made it up after the fact to cover their tracks.
So this wasn't just a report that got filed away in a drawer somewhere. This had real consequences. As a direct result, 3 members of his command, the officers who had orchestrated this whole thing, were relieved of their duties.
That is not a slap on the wrist. That's a career ender.
And then comes the part of the story that sounds like it's straight out of a movie. Not only is he totally cleared, but they give him a medal, the Meritorious Service Medal. And you're not going to believe this, the award specifically covered the period of time when they were putting him through that living hell. He was given one of the Army's highest honors for his service during his ordeal.
So you'd think after all that, he'd be vindicated, right? Case closed. But Stone wasn't done. His whole experience left him with a really powerful message for all of us. A warning about secrecy and what happens when you dare to ask questions. And here's the thing you have to remember. Stone wasn't just chasing shadows. He was asking about real official government programs, like Project Moondust. This was a real Air Force program set up to recover two things: space junk from other countries and objects of unknown origin.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole problem. You've got this huge gap between the official story and what Stone says is in the actual documents. On one side, the government says no UFOs a threat, they don't show any advanced tech, and they aren't from outer space. But Stone says the documents show they have violated our airspace, they have shut down our weapons, and they've even survived being shot at.
So in the end, his warning is pretty chilling. He is absolutely convinced the United States government is not telling the full story about UFOs, and his own personal nightmare is Exhibit A for what happens when anyone in uniform dares to question that secrecy.
And that leaves us with the big, provocative question that hangs over this entire story. If you accept the premise from the documents he talks about, that these objects have technology we can't even dream of, and that they don't belong to any country here on Earth, then it forces you to ask the one question that seems to be completely off limits: where do they come from?